Hey everyone, welcome back to the Jay's Fit Down podcast. I'm your host, Jay Gay, and today on the podcast, I am going to be giving you my best defensive players here in the 2023 NFL Draft. This is a very good list, and the guys I think are going to make a difference here at the next level. So uh, be on the lookout for that as we go on throughout this podcast episode here. But before we get started, make sure you guys check us out here on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your favorite podcast is where we are. Make sure you give us a like there, follow there. Check us out. Comment your thoughts on this video and who you think are the top defensive players in this NFL draft. As mentioned before, we start the NFL draft officially tomorrow. But I'm giving you my list today here of my best defensive players I have coming out this year. So without further ado, let's begin. Will Anderson to me is just by far the best defensive prospect here this year. There's no doubt about it. What he's able to do on the field, he's got an excellent motor, very quick off the football. He's can stand up or he can put his hand in the dirt and get off that way. So that's a guy that I really like. Obviously, Alabama, he's national champion. As multiple time SEC champion himself, contributed hugely to those teams, and when in those Alabama teams would not be in those spots if it would not for Will Anderson. So he contributed very much to that. Multiple time All American, and he led the FBS in sacks with 17 and a half sacks in 2021. So you see that Will is a very impactful player, and when he's on the field, your defense is that much better. It's just better with him on the field. He that's the type of impact that he makes. And everybody likes to play with Will. I think he's a guy that brings great energy to the defense. To the locker room. And those are the type of guys that you want on your team. Like even with, aside from the field stuff, the off the field things, the character. He's a man with great character. He's humble. He doesn't chatter. He doesn't do all that talk on social media. He just goes and works. Nick Saban talked about him all the time. He's a guy that he's just very humble. He's a hard worker. He comes and gets done what has to get done and take care of business. He doesn't. He's a God-fearing young man. You can tell the Lord's present in his life, which is awesome. And he is he just he treats everything like he has to work for everything he's got, everything that he has had, he's blessed, very talented. He understands that, and which is so awesome about it, and Will is just a great guy, great personality, and a very coachable player. Being coachable is a very important thing in football and all sports. But in football, it's very important. You have to be coachable. You have to be able to take criticism, and improve from that and get better, not staying stagnant in the same spot, not where you haven't made any signs of improvement. Will's the type of guy that's definitely improved from his freshman year all the way to his junior year. I can tell you that, and he is only going to continue to get better as he goes to the NFL here. Like I said, coaches, GM, scouts, they want guys that are going to bring positive energy to their locker rooms, to their franchises, to their facilities. Guys are going to come in with a smile on their face, ready to work, encouraging other teammates and, saying, hey, let's go win the day today. Let's go make this a great day. Go out to practice. Let's make this a great practice. Let's pay attention in film. Let's make sure that we're, what I'm saying? Guys like that, and Will Anderson is that type of guy. Those are the type of guys that you want leading your team. You want your quarterback to be like that, leading the offense, and you want a defensive player like that leading the defense. I think Will can definitely be that guy for any defense in the NFL that he goes to. So, and not only my only knacks on Will, he plays a little bit too high, being a linebacker, and he's a little undersized as far as pass rushers are concerned. If he were to be that pass rushing linebacker, if he can gain about 10, 15 more pounds, because he's already fast and very quick and athletic. So if he just gained probably about 10 to 15 more pounds, maybe 17, 18 more pounds, he would be a really good pass rushing linebacker in today's NFL. He's not bad in coverage either. Not perfect, but he's not bad in coverage either. So you can kind of sneak him back to that Will side position if you want to. Let him sit in coverage a little bit and have him put his hand in the dirt, a couple plays and rush the passer or play the run, which he's also good at. As well. But the thing about it is he's got to play more physical. He's got to play a little bit lower. Pad level always wins. Big thing for linemen and defensive and offensive linemen, hands, feet, pad level. You got to have those quick hands, violent hands, quick feet, great footwork, which he does have, and the pad level. You got to have low pad level because you have to be able to win at the point of attack and having great leverage and being able to get under those shoulder pads of those offensive linemen is going to be key to being you know a impactful pass rusher in the NFL. So he's going to have to continue to work on those things and play a little more physically too. Will yeah, because like I said, you're going up against these big behemoths every play, and they're only getting better and stronger and faster. So it's like you have to be able to um, not just rely solely on speed or the fact that you're really athletic, which he is, and it works a good number of times, but also you have to be able to match the physicality, match the intensity too. Be physical, strike with your hands, being physical, just that knockoff, that strike, and just being able to and that affects the offensive player, that affects the lineman. So he's gonna have to continue to work and improve on that. But other than that, he's a great player. And so moving on, I've got Kalijah Cansey from Pittsburgh, a defensive tackle who's gotten a lot of comparisons to Aaron Donald lately for some reason. And here's my thing: I don't compare anybody to Aaron Donald, because Aaron Donald is a beast. He is like Thanos with all the Infinity Stones. He is not, he's not somebody I'm going to compare, like a college prospect to that hasn't even got drafted yet. So not a knock on Cansey there, but I can't compare him to Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is a different breed. But Cansey, being a defensive tackle, he's got great stamina, good strength. He's physical. Off the line of scrimmage. Great hands. You watch his tape. He's a guy that you can mold to be a really effective interior defensive lineman on your football team. However, thing about it, he's got his arm length isn't as long, as you probably like, just to get that punch right. So he that could be hindered by some offensive linemen there, but he other than that, he's a really good player. He's a little undersized, so I expect him to continue to bulk up when he gets to the NFL. But other than that, yeah, I think he's also a good defensive player that can fit well on a lot of these different teams here. Most notably the Pittsburgh Steelers being one of them. That's a Can we see another Pitt player drafted to the Steelers? Like Kenny Pickett was last year. Can we see another Pitt player drafted to the Steelers here? Maybe. I don't know. But I know a lot of teams could definitely use him on their interior presence on the defensive line. So that'll be something to watch out for. Remember that name, Kalijah Cansey. Next up is Nolan Smith from Georgia, the edge player who many have regarded to be the best defensive player in the NFL draft. Other than Jalen Carter and Will Anderson, he's right up there with those two guys. The speed is there. The dude runs like a 4.3 40 for a linebacker, which is insane. And he's very athletic. Instinctful player around the football. And he's physical. Great tackler. This is a guy that he's this guy that you again can mold to be an effective linebacker on the defense, whether it's in coverage or playing, rushing the passer. And that's the thing about it. I'd say Nolan just needs to gain a little bit more weight, and because he's about 238 pounds, 6'4", about 238 pounds, so if he's going to be rushing the passer, might get to at least about 250, 245. And that'll be a solid weight for him. But other than that, he's a very, very instinctive player, very intellectual guy around the nose of the football. So I expect him to make an impact wherever he lands this year in the draft. Coming from that Kirby Smart defense at Georgia, he's already got that mentality like, hey, we're going to be physical. I'm going to play through the whistle, 4 quarters. Like, that's the type of guy. He's a leader. He was a leader on that Georgia team. I expect him to be a leader to his team that he gets drafted in this year in the draft. So Nolan Smith. And now next up on the board is Christian Gonzalez, cornerback from Oregon. Christian is a guy that many have deemed to be like the first or second best cornerback in the draft, other than Devin Witherspoon. I'll get there in a second, but I believe that Christian is the best cornerback in this year's draft simply because he's got good size. He's 6'1", 197 pounds, and the fact that he is able to move so crisply at that size for a corner, he's very athletic, very fluid in his movement. Great in man coverage. He's able to change his direction really well, which is a key for a cornerback. You got to be able to change your direction on the head, have your head on the swivel. You got to have a good change of direction, and that's something that he is established. You saw it at Oregon. He's got a nose for the ball. He can make plays on the football up in the air. And now he does tend to get burned a little bit sometimes, in coverage. But he's got good makeup speed to where he can sometimes, get back. But that's something he's going to have to continue to work on. Just being, just being a little bit more physical at the point of attack. When it comes to jamming those receivers more. That's something that he's going to have to continue to work on, using that size to his advantage. That way, he doesn't get burned off so quickly. And that way, his makeup speed will just cover that the rest of the way. But as far as coverage wise, he's fantastic. In zone and man coverage. So I expect him, to make a great impact here in the NFL. And up next is Devin Witherspoon, another cornerback from Illinois. And like I said, many thought he was the best corner in this year's draft. I believe that he's about the second best personally, but he's a very great player. He will make an impact on any secondary that he goes to in this league. He excels in man end zone coverage. That's a big thing about it. Just like Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon is a guy that man or zone, he plays very well. He's not one of those players like he gets lost in zone or he gets burned in man. Like no, he plays good and well in both coverages. And that's what I like about him. He's very instinctful in reading plays, reading where the football is going, whereas run plays or sweeps or things like that. He's got a knack. He's got a knack for knowing where the ball is. He's good at reading that. You can tell that through his tape. And he's very aggressive. The only thing I would say, he's low undersized. He's 5'11". He's 181 pounds. So going up against bigger guys like Devontae Adams and Michael Thomas, those guys, players like that in the NFL. T. Higgins, your bigger receivers probably be a little struggle a little bit, just because of the size and the mismatch there it might be, So, but other than that, he's going to have to continue to just and when you play against receivers like that, the big thing for being a corner, you have to be able to you have to be able to high point the football. Because they're going to be throwing those miles balls up in the air. So you're going to have to make it to where you have to be physical. You really have to be physical, jam those receivers up, play them hard, play them tough. Hit them, because that way they won't be such an easy get off for them, and they're able to just mouse you out, box you out to get the football. So those are the keys for those smaller corners. And I think that's going to be key for a guy like him, especially going up against guys like DK Metcalf, like I said, DK and, Michael Thomas and T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, those bigger receivers. You're going to have to be able to be physical and knock away the point of football. But I do love his game, and I think he's going to, be a special player in the NFL. So our next prospect here is Tyree Wilson, edge player from Texas Tech. 6'6", 276 pounds, good size. This is like a really model defensive end size, edge rusher. He's a guy that's very heavily coveted by a lot of teams in this draft. I mean, and for good reason. Stout build. He's tough, physical, nice length. He's quick off the line of scrimmage. Very flexible player. Tyree is he's got some, pass rush moves, needs to improve there a little bit more. But I think he's a great pass rusher. I see him going to a lot of teams. Saw some mock drafts him going to Atlanta at pick number 8, who they could use an edge rusher there. So, but he's a really good, talented defensive player. And I like his game. He's also a strong tackler. He's a great tackler. Can play in a 4-3 or 3-4 defensive scheme. So those are things that you really like about that. He's versatile. He's a very versatile defender. And I like guys that not only just can rush the passer, but they're able to stay against the run as well. And set the edge. But that's something that he does need to improve on, is his run defense. Sometimes he can get caught up between those offensive linemen there. He's not able to get off of those blocks. Block shedding is an important thing with him. But he can't consistently move in small spaces to get to the quarterback. Being a pass rusher, you have to be able to wiggle through those spaces to get to the QB. Because if you just go outside, if you rush outside, and the quarterback just able to climb up in the pocket and those things, and able to easily maneuver around. Like a lot of quarterbacks are good like that. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. You know, some names to name that they're good moving around in the pocket, just wiggling around. So if you're an edge rusher, you have to be able to know how to where those places are, be able to squeeze through there, rip through, and try to prevent those climb ups in the pocket from happening. You know, and that's something that he needs to improve on. But other than that, he's just at the next level. I think he's going to be a fantastic pass rusher for any team that goes and gets him. You know, he's just a guy that he's very strong. You know, a very strong player. You know, very instinctful, like a lot of these guys here. And I expect him to make an impact on his next team. And moving on to probably the big face of the draft defensively, Jalen Carter, you know, who a lot of people have mocked him going early, like teams like Detroit. Now, the Eagles, the Bears have him going to those different teams, you know, that are trying to continue to build up those defensive lines, you know, particularly the Lions. But I say Jalen Carter, you know, he's got, of course, we all know, you know, what he did at Georgia, he's a big body there, great interior run stuffer. You know, had that quick little swim move that he used to effectively get off a block. So he's a good block shedder for the most part. He has that nice step and swim move, and he's able to door jam double teams as well. He's pretty good at that. He's good at getting off those double teams, you know. But the only thing with him is his stamina is an issue. Similar to Jordan Davis last year coming out the draft, the stamina is an issue. He's going to have to get the weight down a little bit more, or if he's going to have to you know, just build up his stamina more. He's going to have to build that stamina, get, you know, more endurance. You know, because you saw in the game against Ohio State in the playoffs with Georgia that he got tired very easily. You know, and you can't get tired like that in the NFL because it's a fast game. The game moves at a much faster level. Um, I don't. I think Carter gets overhyped a little bit too much. I think he's getting a little bit too much hype coming out this year. He's a good defensive lineman, but he's again the problem with the stamina. You know, that's a big issue. So he is that's something he's gonna have to work on. Maturity also needs to develop off the field. He's, you know, the off field issues and the getting into the problems, like, you know, he's gonna have to work on that. You know, so he's gonna have to go to a team where they have to if they have to monitor him. You know, that's kind of a thing. You know, you hope at this level guys are able to, you know, really keep a hold on themselves, you know, because they're adults, and things of that nature. But other than that, I think Carter is a great prospect. You know, on the field, you know, when it's between the line of scrimmage, he's going to get it done. He just has to, he just is going to have to be able to play more downs. You know, otherwise he can't play every down defensively. So. Um, but next up is Jack Campbell, linebacker from Iowa. Jack Campbell is a guy I think is really flying under the radar. I think he's one of the best linebackers in this year's draft. You know, he's got a great burst. He can cover a lot of ground. He can sift through trash. You know, whether it's going through the blocks or the you know, different counters or things of that nature, different motions. He's very smart. He can read those things. He can fit the run well. Uh, but that's something he's got to continue to work on. His athleticism is he's athletic, but not the best athleticism there, you know, but it's enough to get the job done. Collegiately, it was at least. So he's going to have to improve his block shedding. You know, sometimes he can get washed away by those offensive linemen coming up to the second level to make those blocks. He's going to have to learn how to not just always try to get around them, but to you know, initiate the contact with the offensive lineman, just initiating the play, getting through there. You know, so he's gonna have to work on that at the next level. And but I think Jack Campbell is definitely has he can definitely start on a lot of different defenses. I think he can be, you know, maybe a good fit with the Cowboys or a team like that. He's a good player. He would be a good player there. Just a great you know, linebacker. He's very intellectual. You know, very instinctful player. Um, Moving up next, we got Luke Van Ness, edge rusher from Iowa. Uh, he's got great versatility. He can play inside or outside. He played a good bit inside at Iowa. Then they moved him outside. He played about 50% of his snaps on the outside. He, he can convert his speed to power. You know, that's a big skill that he has. He's able to, you know, use that speed and use it to, you know, and likes to bull rush a lot, you know, which and he's got good timing and get off of the line of scrimmage. When the ball is hiked, he's very fast with his get off. He's physical. He gets under pads. he's got that good trait. The only thing with Lucas Van Ness, I meant to say, is that he has got to continue to work on playing more. He's he can't learn to just win with the bull rush. He tries to use his bull rush too much, and that's not going to work at the NFL because those guys are bigger and stouter. So he loves to use his bull rush move. He's gonna have to bring more pass rush moves with him to his arsenal because he's going to develop more of those things because that's not always going to work against those offensive linemen like Trent Williams and those very talented linemen that we have in today's NFL. So he's gonna have to work on that. But he's very physical. He's very physical. He plays with a lot of power and strength. He's able to shed those blocks easily. So he's a guy that I think can make a big impact on the defensive line, setting the edge, rushing the passer at the next level. Just has to work on developing more moves. And being able to split through and yeah, just trying to be a little bit more flexible. That's something flexibility is something he needs to work on. Not always trying to rely so much on power, because that's not going to always work at the NFL level. So those are my best defensive prospects here in today's uh, little defensive mock draft here. Not mock draft, but preview my best defensive players of the 2023 NFL draft. So those are my guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did you agree? Did you think maybe some guys should have been a little bit higher or lower? Let me know what you think there in the comment section. And make sure you guys catch the NFL draft tomorrow on believe it's 7:30 on ESPN, NFL Network, ABC. They're gonna have it all. Yeah, they're gonna have all the coverage there. So make sure you check it out live from Kansas City, and we will see who the number one pick will be. And it's going to be interesting. So make sure you guys check it out. And I've been your host, Jaden, on today's Jay's for Down podcast episode. Again, we're on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Thank you guys for tuning in.